What are the best weapons to use in 2024 after Project Resolve? Regulus and Ouroboros. That's it. Have fun, good luck, don't die. It's bad for the health. Now, due to just pure laziness and just whatever else is going on, I would be doing the DPS breakdowns of everything else. I do plan on doing them, they're not off my list. However, I thought the quick and easy way just to get information out there, and then later on I'll have to prove it. But for now, it's kind of like a trust me bro situation, which I do apologize for. I don't like doing this. I like being able to prove it. But for the meantime, like I said, there's a lot else going on, and the quickest thing I can do is literally just give the list of weapons and for you guys to just try them out. We're going to do this pretty simply. We're going to do, like, for example, we're going to start with ARs, and I'm going to show the exotic ARs that are worthwhile, named ARs that are worthwhile, and then the high-end ARs that are worthwhile. This doesn't mean that other weapons aren't worth your time. Feel free to play around, but if you would like to sort of start at the top and then maybe work your way down, then oh boy have I got the video for you. So up first with exotic ARs, we do have St. Elmo's, very high in the DPS category simply due to its RPM, quite low on individual damage. The talent is up for debate, but it also does have a 70 round magazine. For named, we have two options. We have the Shield Splinter, which is the named F2000 with Perfect Optimist, and the second one being Invisible Hands, simply due to Perfect Allegro. That 12% increase in fire rate is actually pretty damn handy. After that, we go into the normal high end, of which we have three options. Typically, we have the FAMAS, the old fan favorite, as well as just a normal F2000, typically with either fast hands or strained. And then from here, we can actually add in the G36, simply because it is now the best option for flatline. I have to add in an honorable mention, which would go to Capacitor, just because I know someone's going to mention it. Now, Capacitor only gets an honourable mention simply just because going for both damage to armour and damage to targets out of cover on the weapon and utilising it as a DPS weapon, as with like any other AR, realistically, it doesn't actually perform as well as people think it does. I have covered this in another video, which I will try and link somewhere if I remember, and it basically just comes down to the simple fact of not every enemy has armor, but every enemy has health, which really does hurt the weapon. It really does, especially against things like Warhounds and Chungers. After that, we move into LMGs, and annoyingly, there's not really a great variety here. Although LMGs are now a lot more powerful since Project Resolve, there is still a huge discrepancy between them. So when it comes to exotics, the only real option we have in terms of like top tier fire rate is Iron Lung, but Iron Lung is also very annoying to use. When it comes to named, the only real option here is annoyingly New Reliable, which we will then go into when it comes to the high ends, because the only real two decent high end LMGs are going to be an RPK, which is New Reliable, and then an L86. And the reason for this is when it comes to burst as well as sustained DPS, these two basically just trade places. When it comes to burst DPS, we have the L86 if we drop a percent, but we want like 5 more percent sustained, we get the RPK. When it comes to other LMGs, basically nothing else actually comes close. The only thing that really can come close is the LMG called Good Times, which comes with Perfect Fast Hands, and that's mostly it. Now we move into probably one of the more contested areas, and that is SMG. And to be perfectly honest, just because of the huge disparaging gap between them, we could literally just say the only SMG worth using is Ouroboros, which obviously is going to take up our exotic slot. And that's basically, realistically, that is it. However, if you have already consumed your exotic slot and you're wanting to use an SMG, the next two things that pop in here are going to be, in terms of named, Swap Chain. That's one of the few. It's pretty high in DPS. Swap Chain is very good in maintaining high handling as well, with accuracy, stability, bloody blah, at least as high as an SMG can actually go. After that, we have the Grudge, simply because it is a CMMG Banshee. These are pretty damn powerful at the moment since Project Resolve, and the Grudge is actually pretty damn good with Perfect Vindictive. After that, going into the high ends, you might notice a theme here. MP7 and the CMMG. We could also add the MPX, I believe it is, to the list. However, this isn't so much due to like overall damage or burst or sustained. It's just the simple fact that basically every SMG in the game is like between 16 and 18 meters depending. I believe the converted SMG9 can get up to 20 meters, but the MPX gets 22. Now we could obviously then go, oh, Perfect Outsider, but there's not really much point to this weapon anymore, simply just due to the changes of Project Resolve. Shotguns, I mean, obviously I have to mention Scorpio, right? Duh. Scorpio is going to be taking up our exotic slot. It is a very, very powerful and very usable shotgun that is very new player friendly. It's very, very powerful. When it comes to named, probably the best thing on here is the Salubre, and then after that it will have to be the Tsunami. I'm aware someone's going to say Enforcer, however, due to that missing attribute, it really, really does hurt it. One of the reasons Capacitor got an honorable mention and not like up on the list realistically is simply just because of how the attribute rolls actively work. So now we've got one that's fully missing, which really does hurt the weapon. Rifles, this is like a huge area where people get so many things just weird and wacky. When it comes to our exotics, the first one is pretty simple. It's going to be Dr. Home. It's pretty easy to use. Annoyingly, it does force you to scope in, but that's like the only real negative of it. It works pretty damn well with a variety of different builds, and it is also quite supportive. The next one is, it's very largely going to be depending on how you want to use it, but one of the best rifles and the theoretical highest damage in the game, minus obviously Regulus, is Ravenous, annoyingly. So they're your two exotics. When it comes to named, only recently and simply just because of the changes with Project Resolve, we have to give this to Artist Tool. Nothing else really comes close. We could argue the Virginian, but Artist Tool just outperforms it in so many different areas. And then just for your normal high ends, obviously we have the entire M1A series, Classic, SOCOM, as well as CQB. And if you are just wanting to mix things up a little bit, the two I would recommend for just your normal high end are going to be the Lightweight M4 as well as the ACRSS. These are actually pretty good in terms of DPS weaponry, especially if you go for a crit build, and then if you run Boomerang, it's actually quite surprising how prominent they are. And then finally on this list we have Marksman rifles. Obviously, when it comes to Marksman rifles, we are going to be mostly prioritizing that one-hit performance, of which nothing really still beats the Nemesis. Nemesis is still absolutely up there. However, if like me, you really, really dislike that charge time, Mantis is now a very, very good secondary option. In terms of overall performance, Nemesis does still win, but it largely now is going to come down to how you wish to play. When it comes to named, we actually have quite a few options. Brutus is very, very good for your first shot, especially if you're not actively engaged in combat, simply because Perfect behind you is actually very, very powerful. Ekim's long stick is now absolutely up there. However, the downside to this is the reload. The reload is actually pretty damn painful, which is probably one of the main reasons I actively wouldn't recommend it. And probably a surprise to a lot of people, the White Death. The White Death is still up there. We used it for years. It hasn't actually changed, and it was one-shotting its way through the game anyway, so it is still absolutely capable of doing so. We now just have potentially better options. Obviously, when it comes to high ends, we have the M700 series as well as the SRS series. These are going to be your main two components. So that's the M700 Carbon, the Carbon Replica, the Tactical, the Model 700, Model 700 Replica, Brutus, Ekim's Long Stick. However, when it comes to the SRS series, the only ones that really actually kind of compete are going to be the SRS A1 and the A1 Replica, as well as Mantis. Now, when it comes to these weapons, it really is going to come down to how you feel. For the highest damage, the Model 700. Like, massively the Model 700. Then it goes to the SRS A1, and then it goes to the M700 Carbon or Tactical. The difference is, the Model 700 has like a 7.2 second reload time from empty. The M700 Carbon has a 3.3 second reload time from empty. And then the SRS A1 has a 3 second reload time from empty. So in terms of damage and reload, the SRS A1 is winning. However, and I could be wrong here, I'd need to check it, the Model 700 Carbon and Carbon Replica, as well as the Tactical, are slightly better on accuracy and stability, I believe. All of these will still one-shot your way through the game. All of them are about 7% more powerful than the White Death, and the White Death is still one-shotting its way through the game. So, yeah, it is mostly and utterly entirely up to you, but they're the ones I would recommend for now. And then just because I forgot to add them in the original edit, because I'm an absolute genius, pistols. Pistols are a bit of a weird one, because realistically, we don't actually tend to use them a lot, realistically. However, just for overall build capability, and as well as what it is theoretically capable of and what it is actually capable of, obviously Regulus. Basically, when it comes to exotic pistol, Regulus is going to be your only bet. If you're really inclined and know what you're doing with it, something like Busy Little Bee is also pretty damn powerful. And obviously, depending on your build, Liberty is very, very useful in the utility of keeping up shield builds. But yeah, when it comes to named, we do actually have a fair few options here. Orbit, if you fancy going down the overall DPS route. If you're actually wanting to use something like Dod City Holster in conjunction with Orbit and you're playing solo, it is about 8% more powerful than just Coyote's Mask. But it does mean your build is operating on a timer. TDI card custom for the skill tier is very, very powerful, both in solo as well as in a group. Mostly in a group, especially if you've got someone running a revive hive. And if you're wanting like an unlimited ammo pistol build, you can use the lightning rod. It does work kind of okay, but it's not the best thing. When it comes to high-end pistols, the only one that seems to make a repeat performance is the D50. That's like literally it. You can run other things, but you are better off trying to use one of the aforementioned, particularly the named ones, depending on what it is you're actually trying to do. Anyway, that is basically going to cover it for this video. Like I said, I don't like doing the Trust Me Bro videos. I will be getting around to doing the full DPS comparison to show what it is I've just said. However, in the meantime, have fun, good luck, and don't die. It's bad for the health.